Welcome to Meet the Biz. Today we have talk about a disability rights advocate. He is autistic reality. I first met this amazing man in New York for a gathering for Terry Hartman Squire's Lights, Camera, Access 2.0. And he's just amazing. What can I say? Mr. Alec Frazier!
Yay!
Yay! Hey!
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, how are you?
Good. You look wonderful.
I've been working very hard. I figure with this virus going on, I want to keep busy so that I don't think about, bad stuff. And I've been successful at that, by the way. I'm, just staying very positive and hopeful, which I know is tough during these times. But I had, if you'd like me to explain, I had an aha moment about 8 years ago where I chose. I'm not recommending this to anyone else. I don't know how it worked, but I chose to not to get depressed or seriously sad anymore. And for some stupid reason, it worked. And I haven't been depressed or seriously sad in 8 years.
I love that. And how do you how for people that would for people who are going through that, who get on the edge of maybe being depressed, how would you say to help them to get over that or get through it?
Well, for one thing, I have a very strict rule. Unless it's like the moment I'm voting in a primary or general election, I never post politics to my personal wall. And I have 2 business pages, and I only post good news there, or here's how to fix this problem. I recognize that in the world of disability advocacy, there are a lot of unfortunate things happening, but everybody else is posting about that. I want to post about the good stuff because I noticed that there's a lack of that online.
Yeah. I remember the first time I met you, which you have this power about you, this thing about you where people don't forget you. You have this magic about you. And I met you at the Terry Hartman Squire's Lights, Cameras, Action 2.0 in New York.
Yeah, Lights, Camera, Access 2.0. The one in New York, I was actually co-hosting by accident. J.D. Michaels, who was my partner at work at the time, was hosting the seminar that time. Was it that one or the one was it the one at BBDO or the one at JCC?
God, I'm blanking. I know it was in April 2018.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, there was one that JD co-hosted at BBDO where he was working at the time, and I was one of his fellows for his program at the time, and I ended up accidentally co-hosting that one. The one in the other one at I think it was the JCC, I was one of the speakers, the panelists.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I was looking through your website and all the stuff that you do. I mean, it's like, you're constantly working.
The website is good. Even better are the 2 Facebook pages. There's the Facebook page for Autistic Reality, where I talk about disability advocacy and political issues. And then there's the one that's named after my book, Veni Vidi Autism. and that is and except it doesn't have exclamation points, it has commas, Vani and the Vani comma VD comma autism, and that one is where I cover my publication and my entertainment news. And I this time last year I was at New York Comic Con, and I uh, I had some friends who were already in the pop culture criticism world, and they said, "Don't go to them; they'll come to you." Well, I learned early on that nobody's going to come to you unless you make yourself heard. So it's so funny. Some of the biggest names I got Diana Gabaldon, the author of Outlander, by literally I emailed her, but she didn't answer that. So but I did post a copy of the email I sent her on my Facebook page and tagged her in it, and she actually responded within 5 minutes and said, "Sure, I'll sit down with you," you know. And a few years prior, I you see, my first master's paper, which was my master's in disability studies from the University at Buffalo. I loved the degree. The advisor didn't always have the best advice, so I did a paper on the first autistic superhero from Marvel Comics, Tim Burke as the second Daredevil, and then I asked him, I did the paper, and I asked, "Can I publish this?" And he said, "Not unless you do a lot of work." And then I said, "Can I monetize it?" And he laughed at me. Well, I went, this was my academic advisor, to be fair.
Right.
He was thinking along academic lines, but I went to the guy who ran, this is the issue, by the way, the character is revealed to have autism. I keep this framed and under glass.
Oh, wow.
So, and then no, he's revealed as that character. The brilliant thing about the writer is he never actually discussed on the in the comic. He never mentioned the autism because, you know, I'm Alec Frazier and I don't scream I have autism every time I go around in public. I did that's not who I am all the time. It's a facet of life. It's not the entire thing. So, but yeah, the writer confirmed that, and confirmed, somebody asked and he confirmed, and when the character was revealed was in that issue. So I went to the guy at the local comic book shop in Buffalo, New York, where I was living at the time, and he actually helped me get some illustrations and get the paper published
Oh,
as a little pamphlet sized thing, like 15 pages or so.
yeah.
I did a uh, I sold it at regional Comic Cons and networked the hell out of it, gave copies to people, and I tried to talk to the writer, who was comics writer Brian Michael Bendis. He's a big name, and it was impossible to reach him. But I was planning on going to Fan Expo in Toronto in 2016 anyway, so that I could meet Stan Lee, and I did, and I gave him a copy of this, and he said, "I'll read it when I get home." And then before I continue on that story, a few years later, JD gave a copy of this to Stan's manager, and Stan's manager gave it to Stan, and it was probably the last gift Stan received before he died.
Oh, wow.
So, um, so
Well, you have these amazing connections. I mean,
yeah.
you are such a strong advocate for the community, and you do it through so many different ways. You do it through public speaking, and you do it through art and writing.
Well, you know, a lot of people think art, and they think art and artistic stuff, and I love Terry Harmon Squire. She's like an aunt to me by now. But the thing is that she's lately been focusing on visual and performing art, and literature is a very valid art. I mean, you know, you go here in DC, and you if you visit and they're finally open and quarantine's finally over, I will take you to become a reader at the Library of Congress, and you will see this beautiful temple, the Jefferson Building they've constructed with to literature. It's amazing. Literature is about art. Back to my story. Fan Expo 2016. I was unable to get in touch with Brian Michael Bendis, but I learned that Joe Quesada, the creative head of Marvel, was holding a meet and greet for like $50, $75. You could get some stuff signed by him and ask him some Q&A. And I said, well, if I can't get Bendis to answer me, I'll go to his boss. and so I did not just meet Joe Quesada, but I formed a friendship with him. We're friends on Facebook, and if I message him, he will eventually get back to me. And at uh, New York Comic Con this time last year, which was the biggest Comic Con in human history at that point, I actually was Joe invited me to VIP attendance at his big panel, and where he interviewed Vincent D'Onofrio, and uh, and then afterwards we both walked to the show floor, and he stood there answering my questions for my podcast and my YouTube channel for like 15 minutes. And at one point, they said, Joe, you really need to do the company podcast. And he's like, no, I want to talk to Alec instead, you know, so
There you
that
go.
was, yeah.
I
Humbling,
love
if you
too
will.
that you know, I mean, you're talk about all these people and Lieutenant Uhura, correct?
Yeah, she
She wrote for your website.
she didn't
I mean,
write that, but I met her about 6 years ago, and she indicated through her agent that she wanted to endorse me, and that she back then I only had this book, the pamphlet, and I gave her a copy, and I got a photo with her, and she signed a book of mine, and she and her agent said, we'll give you Nichelle Nichols endorsement.
yeah.
And yeah.
What a wonderful endorsement. I mean, especially to have that one of the beginning quote seeds, the founders in a way of Star Trek. I mean,
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah, that was very cool. I have an outstanding promise from Anthony Rapp, who is Lieutenant Paul Stamets in Star Trek Discovery, and is a big name in diversity and entertainment because his character was the first gay character in the Star Trek series, and so they unfortunately waited until that series, you know, but yeah. So
Or at
anyway,
least to announce it, right?
oh yeah, he's very out and very open. Plus, I have to give him mad props for his courage. He's the one who he was on the receiving end of some sexual assault by Kevin Spacey back in the 80s, and he's the one who outed Kevin Spacey as a sexual predator. Yeah, so I mean, and in the full honesty, I have to say, me too, you know, so it's not just, you know, women and small guys. I'm 6'5", 280 pounds, and it's, you know, but he has agreed to sit with me at some point, and but right now I think today they actually have their Star Trek Universe panel at the now online New York Comic Con, but I went to the physical one last year.
Wow.
And
Well, I tell you, I can't wait till the pandemic is over. So whenever you are in Los Angeles, you'll have to come visit Meet the Biz and
I
our student
I
list.
don't I'm working on a very limited budget, less than shoestring, you know. So unless I get someone to sponsor me, I can go to New York City. It's like round trip. It's like a $50 train ticket, and then a couple dozen dollars for an Airbnb. You know,
Have you
but
ever been? Have you ever worked in California?
I did attend a event for what was then called USBLN, which is now called Disability In, and I prefer USBLN honestly. And uh, JD, who has been in advertising for decades, also thinks that that's better than Disability In. And so I was on their youth advisory committee for 2.5 years, and one of their meetings was in LA, and I did that. But what wasn't going to be business, you'll actually find the whole last unit of this book is writings relating to fandom of James Cameron's Avatar. And you see, I actually we got a very rare thing that like never happened before. We, the official fan group for James Cameron's Avatar, which is called Avatar Meet, got an invite to the studio
Right.
and met with a lot of the special effects people and production people and staff people. And I actually asked producer John Landau, James Cameron is the guy whose name is on it, but
Yeah.
John Landau does all the grunt work, and he's maybe the busiest guy in the movie making business because, he was behind like Titanic and half of the Terminator and Alien sequels, and
Right.
and Avatar and Alita Battle Angel and endless stuff like that. I asked him what he thought was his thoughts were on, and I'm putting this carefully. I said featuring people with disabilities in the future films.
Yeah.
And his answer was very smart. He was very wise. He was so wise. This was like a trick question, and I didn't even know it. He said, "You see, I really get concerned when I hear the word featuring, because that means they're making a special interest case out of it,
Ah.
and that, as you know, as a disability advocate, involves pity."
Right.
And you don't want that. You want to show these people living their lives as they naturally do. If of course, that would include disabled characters, LGBTQ characters, etc., etc. And actually, they have more than one disabled actor working on the sequels.
Well,
And
C.J. Jones,
yes,
yes.
that's him. That's yes. And
Have you
and
interviewed him yet?
no, but I'm looking to do that. I'm looking to connect with him, honestly.
Yeah.
I haven't ever. I saw him when he was at a Ruderman Foundation panel, but I don't think he's ever met me in person.
Yeah.
I'd love to interview him, to tell the truth. If you
Right.
could help with that, maybe that
Oh,
would
I would
be.
love to. I will definitely connect the two of you because I think it would be a great connection, especially since you are so into um, the comic books and the Avatar
Yeah.
and the creative writing and film.
Now, this is not just I do things for my YouTube and I do things for my podcast. There's like 3 dozen podcast entries. Some of the podcast entries are also YouTube. Now with the advent of Zoom, the quarantine has actually been really wonderful for me because it forced me to innovate, and I've been able to use Zoom to record interviews on video, and now I have video interviews that I never would have had before.
Isn't
And
it
so
great?
yeah, and I also got a Zoom account, which is like negligible price,
Yeah.
for what you get. And uh and i uh i have so i have my YouTube, my podcast, but I also write for publications. I write for Flickering Myth, which is a website, a pop culture website. Like I did a whole my first piece for them was an essay on how Alita Battle Angel was basically, it was a fantasy come true for people with prosthetics, because almost every character in that film is to some degree or another prosthetic. And it's interesting that the most human character in the film, her only human part is I think her brain, you know,
Sure.
and there are people with fake arms who use them for as an advantage playing music. There are people who use them as sports advantage, and you realize that everybody in that film, almost everybody at least, is physically disabled in some way, but it's not a disability. They use it for like superhuman abilities, you know.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a piece on that for them. I wrote their review of Love Victor. I did an interview with I actually met Becky Albertelli, who wrote Love Victor and Love Simon. She was coming to speak at a local independent bookstore, and I met with her and gave her a copy of my book, and she signed some copies of her book for me, and she agreed to do an interview with me, and so then I also do a lot of work for Starburst magazine. Do you know who they are?
No, but now when did they
It,
become a burst?
Starburst magazine is like the oldest and the biggest sci-fi and action magazine.
Wow.
They're British and they've been around since the 70s. They are so highly regarded that they are to science fiction, action, comics, and horror as Rolling Stone is to music.
I love
So
this.
so yeah, and I've written reviews and blurbs. They've used the quarantine as an advantage to finally do like 100 best science fiction films, and did mini reviews of a couple films for them. They also did biggest horror moments. I have my first full-size interview coming out for them.
When I have to ask you, you mentioned horror moments. What is your favorite, if you had to choose your favorite horror film of all time, what would it be?
I think with horror, that's the wrong way to view it. Scariest horror.
Oh, okay. I got that.
If you are in a dark room watching for the very first time and paying rapt attention to the 1983 film Ghost Story, it will be the scariest shit you'll ever see.
I love that film. Alice Cridge, right?
Yeah, Creech, yes.
Cridge.
No one is scarier than her.
Oh, she's so brilliant.
Yeah.
I would love to meet her. Oh,
Yeah. She is amazing. And of course, naturally, they got her to play the recurring role of the Borg Queen in Star Trek. You know, yeah. And so no one can do frightening like her.
I tell you, I mean, when I was growing up, and still once in a while, but one of my things was collecting soundtrack albums. And one of my favorite genres was, quote, horror, just because the music is so old. And I actually have the soundtrack on LP of Ghost Story.
Oh, great. Yeah. So I did that. And so I have this like I said, one way I connect with these famous like filmmakers and comic book people, dude, I just drop them a friend request on Facebook, and you'd be surprised who answers. So one of the people who answered a couple of years ago was Dacre Stoker, who's the great grandnephew of Bram Stoker, and he's also Bram Stoker's literary executor. And he has written, because he has the rights to the estate, he has actually written the official prequel and sequel to Dracula, officially licensed. And he also gives tours of course, once again, when we're not on quarantine, he gives tours of Vlad Tepes's Romania, you know, Vlad the Impaler, who Dracula's based on. And actually, there's a site called Mini Museum, and I recently ordered some soil from one of Vlad Tepes's castles, and I'm having Dacre sign it and send it back. And so Dacre agreed to be in an interview with me he's all about getting the word out, you know. So that will be a sizable interview I've got going in Starburst. And if you have like a place, a news shop, bigger than a newsstand, but like a news shop that sells reputable magazines, or if you have a Starburst subscription, that should be coming out a couple days before Halloween this month.
Oh my God, this sounds great. Um, what is, question? What is one of your biggest joys?
Photography. I live in a town that is filled with monuments, memorials, museums of all kinds, and I want to not just disability access. I know that the majority of people in this country do not even leave their home state in their entire life.
Yeah.
I want to create an online database of photos of sites that people can see. And dude, even when I go to like a restaurant, like I went to an Ethiopian restaurant a few days ago, and I took photos of my meal, you know, and then I because I have OCD, I make that work for me instead of being a hindrance. So I like thoroughly subcategorize all the albums by like place and then and stuff like that, and I was in the middle of photographing the brand new state-of-the-art paleontology hall at
Right.
the Smithsonian right when the quarantine hit, and I'm waiting for it to open again. So that most of the Smithsonians are having limited openings right now.
Right.
So
Well,
yeah.
you know, I was again doing research on you, and of course I met you in New York, but you do public speaking, event management, social networking. You're a content editor. What do you like to do the most? What do you?
I haven't done event management in a few years, to be honest. I should probably take that off there. But what do I like doing the most? This is going to sound like cliche and it's going to sound fake, but I get a big rush, a big amount of pride and joy out of helping people. For example, I have a friend named Carrie, and in March or April, Carrie got COVID-19. The president said, don't be afraid of it. Carrie is on oxygen probably for the rest of her life due to it, and she's running the risk of losing multiple toes and at least one finger. And she's like thoroughly disabled for the rest of her life. And so one thing I do for my friends who deserve rewards or who are going through tough times, I send them 4-foot pillows. Actually, these big fat things, almost as big as they are, and Carrie really needed a good pillow, so I sent one to her, and I also sent her a copy of the book, and I have like no money, but I sent her sizable donations to her medical funds. You know, this is the big problem we have. She doesn't have, or rather, her insurance will not cover fixing her circulation in her hands and feet.
Right.
So they want to amputate. You know,
Right.
it's horrific.
The
I mean,
time that we're going through.
I'm on Medicaid myself,
Yeah.
and my dental isn't covered. You know, so but
No.
yeah.
We have to keep going, don't we? We just have to keep going. And what you said about helping people, you know, that is one of my biggest joys, is to see the joy that others get and to see the
Last
effect of
yeah.
that.
Last year at New York Comic Con, there are other people in the pop culture world who deal with disability in comics and stuff. Our friend Day, for example. But unlike Day, I've noticed that Day's work is like really scholarly takes on things, you know. And I come even though I do have a master's in disability studies and an honorary doctorate in counseling, you know, I still approach it as a fan, and I try to make it digestible to the average person. And so we had like 250 people show up to that panel, and a huge amount of them, rows and rows of autistic people who it, it, they came to the realization that like a huge percentage of people, endless amounts of people, were also autistic people in that audience. And one of them said afterwards, she was in tears, and she said, I have never been around so many people like me, you know?
Mm. Mm.
And
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. No, that it's amazing when people do come together, whether it's from different communities or the same community. It's so that's what we need right now, people coming together than
Yeah.
going apart. It's much simpler. It's
And
much
I tried to bring people together from different communities. I left the disability only advocacy world a few years ago because I realized that, like, for example, there is a certain large autistic self advocacy organization that is really militant compared to my beliefs, and that operates in a way that is like exclusionary of people who aren't autistic. And I agree that people with autism are our own best advocates, but I also don't want to throw like parents and teachers and allies off of the raft.
yeah.
I I think that they're, for example, a parent is much more willing to approach things from an autistic person's point of view if you don't immediately alienate them,
Right, right. You know, here are some words I'm going to throw out to you, or that you're connected with: sociology, psychology,
Yes,
public administration,
yes,
bowling,
uh,
sociology of gender.
yes. I had a big fat class in university that was actually uh, gender sociology and pop culture. We studied gender and sexuality through comics, military movies. We watched Soldier's Girl. We hip hop, and what was the fourth one? Oh yeah, vampires. We studied an Octavia Butler book.
Oh
So
my God. You know, you said vampires and it took me to the Magic Castle. Not that they have vampires there,
yeah.
but have you ever been to the Magic Castle?
No, like I said, I wish I could get up to California more often, but that is
Well,
I don't have money, So
well, whenever somebody flies you out to
yeah,
California,
yeah,
let me know because you've got to, maybe we'll go together. We'll get a group together
yeah.
and go to the Magic
We need
Castle.
to.
It's so much fun. Um, I have somebody, Todd Jenkins wrote on the Facebook wall because I mentioned that I was interviewing you today. And this is what he wrote. So I'm going to throw it out. As a comics buff, what do you think of the representation of autism within the comics industry?
The industry.
Yeah, in the industry, and what opportunities might there be for autistic artists and writers in that field? And do you see a resistance to that inclusion within the industry?
I will say throughout history, I will say that a lot of the people who are very famous comic book creators have been autistic. It's just they don't make it a big honking deal about it. And some of it was before diagnosis was commonplace. Some people have chosen not to get diagnosis. Some people don't make it a very public thing, but autistic people thrive in that environment. What was it back in the day? It was people sitting in a cubicle in a bullpen creating their stuff. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know that Alan Moore likes to get pissed off at everybody, but I swear he has autism. There's no way he doesn't. the creator of Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and stuff like that. Just look at his whole public persona. There's no way he doesn't, and a lot of the other people, you're even on the local level, your comic book shop owners and your fans at your conventions, you will find a lot of people either with autism or with family members with autism. And I've actually, one time I was at a show in Rochester, New York, and I was given a small theater to do my presentation in. And usually, for most panels, it's like 3 or 5 people in
Mm,
there. We filled the small theater because we were giving an autism-centric talk, you know,
yeah.
and autism and creativity, rather. There's a big panel I do, the one I did in New York Comic Con last year. It's autism and creativity. I just did a version of it for the National Disability Mentoring Coalition and people, youth with disabilities. And I'm giving it again, this time as a free online seminar for the DC Public Library. And if you think, well, Alec, aren't you giving that everywhere and to everyone? Uh, it actually doesn't get easier doing it over and over again. New stuff comes in, and I think everybody deserves to hear about that.
Yeah. What's your proudest moment in your life?
um this is going Listen, I need to preface this by saying I have literally gotten a standing ovation from JFK's sister. I have had that talk with Joe Quesada where he said, "You are doing exactly what people with disabilities need to do in order to get noticed in the creative world. You need to actually come to us." I've had people like that, but that's not my proudest moment. When I was living in Buffalo, the comic book shop owner, Emil Novak Sr., who is the biggest geek I've ever seen, we had just come from an event at the city library in Buffalo, and we were all at lunch together. And he said, I, I can't believe you're not one of Professor X's gifted mutants. And that was the biggest praise I've ever gotten. So that was, yeah. That I mean, like I said, I've got Stan Lee who read my books, but that was actually the biggest praise I've ever gotten, the proudest moment in my life, I think.
We have over 100 students at Performing Arts Studio West, and then we have, I don't know how many from Meet the Biz, as well as this is going to go on YouTube.
Great.
How do people who are interested in comics or what you do, how do they connect with you?
I've got a multi-page document of social profile links. Best ways are not my personal Facebook page. Trust me, you know me. I'm crazy as hell. And I'm proud of it too. I'm proud of it too.
You have
So
to be in this business.
you might people might get weirded out being friends with me on my personal page, but look up Autistic Reality on Facebook, and also look up Veni Vidi Autism on Facebook. That is VENI, space VIDI, space autism. And also, please go to my website, not just for the website, but it has links to all of my social media profile pages. You'll find a link to my podcast. You'll find a link to my YouTube. These interviews go on, well, not this one, but like the one I'm going to do with you in December, go on there. And I also do other fun videos, and I also have a blog, actually 2 blogs. One is simply the Autistic Reality blog, where I post personal stuff and disability related stuff and random stuff. But the one I'm most proud of is the Veni Vidi Autism blog, which I really need to post to again, which is where I post my pop culture content.
By the way,
Also,
I
yeah,
saw your interview with Judy Human. I love that, how you guys were eating, and it was just
yeah,
so relaxed
yeah.
and fun.
She had Stevie, her assistant, go out and buy like cake and ice cream and party favors and stuff like that. And I put a banner up behind me that said happy birthday. And we just, Judy is lovely, and uh, I love her to bits. She's amazing. And I had just finished watching Crip Camp for the first time when I saw that, so it was all fresh in my head.
Isn't that
You
like
know,
one of the best films ever? I just loved it.
yeah, and you know, that was amazing. And then, oh my God, did you see my interview with Tony Coelho?
I haven't yet. I have to watch it.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You'll also see his letter of reference that he gave me on my website, which
Yeah.
is extremely humbling that he was willing, that he of all people was willing to say that about me. But yeah, I did an interview with him that's on my YouTube, and the audio might be on my podcast. But please, when given the option between audio and on podcast and YouTube video, look at the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Like, the thing with Judy isn't nearly as fun without the video.
I love seeing all the different expressions and the emotions and the the eating of the cake.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
So yeah, no problem.
This has been a blast.
Yeah, and the thing is that I here's how I sum this up.
Mm.
I know people who are better at disability advocacy than me. I know people who are better at pop culture work than me. But I have yet to meet anybody who combines them quite like me, you know. And that's not bragging, but that is a genuine fact. I'm not aware of anyone who does that, you know. Something you might want to capture
Yes,
before we leave.
of course.
JD and my own career, I have an action figure.
Ah, bring it closer to the camera. Oh my God, that is great.
Yeah.
Where did you get it?
Well, JD is a wonderful man. I love him dearly, and he has uh, these contacts. And as you know, I was doing a fellowship for him that was supposed to last a year, but it ended up lasting like almost 2 years in various ways, shape, and forms. And as a gift at the end, he has a friend who scans people for like Hollywood and major things. The guy had just gotten done scanning Bill Murray's foot, of all things, and he and so yeah, you know, there's all sorts of weird stuff going on. So he actually he stood over me with these capture devices all around my body as I wore the suit, and he had the glasses in post, but anyway, so I think, if I'm correct, it's made from granulated glass, which means it is so fragile, you know.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, and so one of the questions I answer for the pop culture panel, JD came up with those questions, and the last one is, what does your action figure look like? And that's the only image in the panel. I just simply roll this image, you know.